Scott Gillespie on the breaks. Didn't get that one perfect. He broke actually amazingly well, I thought, earlier on. Was very, very impressed. And that was just a little sign. Watch the cue ball. Just a little bit not right. We are splitting hairs, obviously, because it's a very, very good hit. He's made a ball and all the rest of it. That's all there. But, yeah, just want to keep an eye on. He'll want to straighten that cue ball up as the match continues. Scott getting through Arf and Dad earlier on today. Played very well in that match. Jake Dillon Newlove through against John Rowe. See Scott there. Mel in his corner, as she has been all weekend.
Good first opportunity as well. Love to set the tone and take out a finish in this first frame and force himself on the match. That yellow just to the left of the 8 balls, the one. Does that go bottom right? Probably, but it's still an awkward place to get to. If it doesn't go bottom right, then a nudge required. And he can play this 2 ways. He can play the nudge if he wants to, but not guaranteed to be on anything, or he can play on the yellow if it goes. The fact that he's out over there now looking tells me that it probably does go, and he just has to squeeze it past the red here.
Yeah, played it well. You can see there the room is there between the 2 balls. Got to play a good next shot, just get himself set.
Yeah, it looks like he's come too far, but he's fine. He's not going to hit the red. So he can just control this off 1 or more likely 2 cushions. If he had landed short or straight, he might have been able to float through the gap and play on the one on the right-hand side. I'm not sure he'll risk trying to get across for that one. No, he hasn't, but he'd love to go far enough to be able to get it on the next shot. And he has. He can play the one in the middle of the table, get across on the one on the cushion. He's still going to need a really good shot to get onto the 8 ball. Can't leave the one on the cushion as your last ball. You feel with that 8 ball well guarded to the left-hand side. You need to get... You may not be able to get good on it. You may just have to accept somewhere near the middle of the table, depending on the angle he gets on the last ball. Nice amount of angle off the cushion here. He can just drop it in a nice pace and kind of pick which way he wants to go about getting onto that 8 ball.
Yeah, played that well. Now he's got options.
I think he's going to accept middle of the table. Try not to get too good on it. Like I say, where he is now is ideal, but you don't risk trying to get any better on it.
But he doesn't. It's quite a bit of a typical Scott Gillespie finish, this. Doesn't overcomplicate things, just gives himself the shot. Little bit of a grimace from Goobsy.
It's just a tester. He's gone 1 turn further to the right. That's going to make him really think about this 8 ball.
Yeah, big 8 ball, chance to set the tone for 1-0. Shot.
Say the one thing with leaving yourself a tester of an 8 ball is when you pass that test, it really makes you feel good out there.
Yeah, and he should. He certainly should. Showed us earlier on that he is very much here to win this event.
I think in years 1 and 2 with Ultimate Pool, you got a sense that those sorts of finishes were just getting away from Scott, where that always felt like he was going to take it out. He always felt like he was working it through, and yes, we knew that was going to end up leaving a tester of an 8 ball, but I think in the years 1 and 2, they seemed like bigger tests than they do right now. He just looks confident. He's playing with some confidence and some belief, perhaps for the first time with Ultimate Pool. First look at Jake then. Normally has a huge weapon of a break. Oh, cue ball was tracking. Gets kicked away from that corner pocket. And
I don't think he'll mind that. I don't think he'll mind that one bit.
Extension call.
good layout here for Jake. If he clips this one in the middle, though, cue ball could be running into traffic. Well, will be running into traffic. He was able to nip it, actually. He was a little bit straighter on that than I thought, to be honest. He didn't get close to the traffic, but now he can pick his route. Looks like he's going to be leaving the one in the top area as last ball, and first glance you think that's not a great last ball, but he's going to be fairly straight on it and he can just pull it back. 8 ball goes bottom left, so it's not bad at all. No damage done with that little nudge on the 8 ball either. Excellent gap to pick there. The fact that he had to leave that on the cushion just meant that was going to be very awkward. He wanted to just be able to pull that back, but excellent to find the gap, and excellent last couple of shots for Jake, and a great response to the break clearance from Scott, one of his own.
Yeah, he's just got to keep on going.
We wondered how the players would be feeling out there. Big semi-final here, big final waiting for one of these two guys. And would there be any edginess? Well, they've not shown it in their first visits. 2 very good clearances. One thing we see with players, you know, they have a big win, you know, like Jake did over Mick Hill, and a number of times they do that and then they lose their next match, but Jake's having none of it. I'm not sure if the fact that the tournament's lasted over so many weeks is easier, you know, to sort of reset. It's almost like the night's work is done. I know he had to win another match that night, which he did comfortably, but I think it helped him that the tournament didn't continue. He could just enjoy that win, come back a couple of months later and do it again.
Yeah.
Brilliant break
agreed
from Scott here. Great explosion, great control of the cue ball. A little bit unfortunate that actually the split isn't brilliant at the top of the table. You look at the rest of the table and you're thinking, oh, I really want to be reds here, but how is he opening up the red top right? Maybe red off the red and yellow more. He may well be thinking yellows. If he is thinking yellows, it's fine as long as the 8 ball goes. If he has to play a cannon on the 8 ball, then yellows have their problems at the back end, and obviously still aren't wide open at the top, but there's more balls up there to make yellows work.
Yellow ball's in play.
Oh, he's got a lovely angle. If he needs to play a nudge on those three together, he may feel like he doesn't need to. Depends whether there's a possibility of making a plant. I don't think there is. I think there will need to be a nudge. Decided not to go that time. I think the reason being, if he gets the nudge from top left, he can come across and just cannon the red and almost ping it out the way. Rather than going into it from the middle of the table, that red would stay in amongst it. Ooh, we got the yellow, not the red. Caught a ball on the red would have been ideal.
Two ball.
So Scott elects to tie things up a little bit. First tactical frame of the evening.
I'm assuming that Jake can't play the red off the red. I'm assuming the yellow stops that shot, because that would have been very careless if that was the case. Scott would not have played that.
Extension called.
Does he just play straight down the table, hide behind the red and yellow together?
Is he
Just
looking to play your shot but off the top cushion?
big shot if he is. Don't think that's on. Lost a turn. No, he's just getting the red out and getting the snooker. And that's not bad. That's where I was suggesting he should get the cue ball, to the bottom left-hand corner of the table.
Is there a gap?
Be very unfortunate if there is. Thought I'd leave the red there. The reason he's played safe off that red is to open up that red, so that puts pressure on Scott's safety. But if he leaves that red there and plays safe to this area of the table, then and leaves the gap, there's more work for Scott to do.
There's always a gap.
Needed to play a clever shot to get that, but yeah,
Very good.
that shot wouldn't have been on if the red was in between them.
Great shot from Scott Gillespie. Clever.
I said at the start of this frame, I think that yellow, I think that 8 ball does go. You can get to the potting angle. Certainly from high, even in straight, I think you can get to the potting angle. You see that in the overhead.
And he's got a lovely angle here, just to float on down the left side of the table.
Be fascinating actually to get mixed thoughts on that safety shot that Jake played, whether it was worth the risk of trying to develop your ball whilst trying to come down the table. It feels a little bit unfortunate to leave the gap he did, but he also opened up the possibility of the shot that Scott played by playing it the way he did.
I think this is a very good frame from Scott Gillespie. Two 2-1. The Scott leads. He's had a great tournament. Here is his route through. Harvey Perry and Josh Gooderham were dispatched in his first group. Then just this week came through a fantastic battle with Carl Sutton. Really high standard match, that one. Goobsy getting the better of Carl, 8-6. Matt Brearley then, the Gareth Potts conquest ended there for Matt Brearley. Super performance against Gareth, but round to a very informed Scott. 8-4 win for the Glaswegian, and then he knocked off our fan Dad earlier on today. Solid run through.
Trailing 2 frames to 1.
The Butcher back on the break.
Just came across it a shade, but still huge power.
Extension called.
Red at the bottom, slightly awkward if he wants to go reds. I mean, it goes. Just has to get left side of it. I'm not sure it goes to the bottom left, and even then it's guarded a little bit by the 8-ball. Other than that, these are all there. Looks like he's going to leave the key positional shot till last. Love to do it off left centre, I believe. Get almost straight, just a ball above straight to left centre. You can just drift down the table for that final red. It's going to be hard to do though. Unless he's got angle here, he could stun through the gap. Just get past the straight and the red to top right. Nope, he decided to play into the yellow. This just feels a little awkward this way around. He might have the angle now to come down for the one below the 8-ball. Then he's got to go back up. Helps if the 8-ball goes past the yellow to bottom left. Point being, imagine if he was here without that red at the top of the table, how much easier it would be.
Yeah, he's going to have to play a shot on his last red. It's going to have to be a decent one.
If the 8-ball does pass that yellow, it's not a full pocket by any means, so he may have to be bringing this right the way down the table. Yeah.
He's short.
Just got a little bit lost with his pattern on this one.
He is short.
Depends how much of the pocket's showing. The fact that he tried to play on it in the middle tells me that he won't try and drop it in now. I wonder if he's thinking treble rather than double. Yeah, that tells you. Can't play for that. It probably does just about slide in, but I think probably treble.
2, 3. What a shot. Oh, the Butcher slicing and dicing. 1, 2, 3.
And the reason being the treble, not the double. It's a big pocket. You get the yellow.
Yeah, from that angle it is, yeah.
Obviously, it goes clean. It looks great, but there was margin there for him. He could hit it wide and come off the bottom cushion off the yellow. He can come a little narrow and go straight off the yellow, but he played it perfectly. Good recovery that, because he knows that he should have been better on that 8-ball than he was. It's been one of the biggest improvements in Jake's game from the first time I saw him play a number of years ago to now, is that temperament side of it is improved dramatically.
I think that's just maturity in general, isn't
it?
That's the break Scott Gillespie's looking for. That 8-ball was very close. Oh, this is a funky leave. A snarl from Scott.
Yeah, reaction tells us he does not like this.
I think he's been hard done by here because he's crunched that break. Lovely hit. This is one of those where I think if you're Jake Dylan Newlove, you're almost thinking, go on, take something on. Please.
Well, I'm wondering whether... Does he try and decide that reds are better than yellows here? Take reds, then maybe play a loss of turn one way or another, because the red above the yellow on the left-hand side is really tough for yellows to solve. Okay, it's not easy for reds to solve either, but almost start to play the match here. Don't try and make a clearance.
That red would have been easy to solve if that red had held up. Oh, I think this is row back, isn't it?
Yeah, I think play the...
Another loss of turn.
Yeah. Depends how difficult that yellow is to get to, but I think that yellow's easy to get to, the one over the pocket. So I think get rid of that and ask a question of Jake. We saw Jake earlier. He tried to take on quite a few tricky finishes, and if you play the loss of turn here, and even if you left Jake half a shot on, you're almost inviting him to go for it happily.
Yeah, I think he'd be delighted if Jake had a poke at these. Referee Rich Rhodes is just looking at the yellow to the top left, frozen to the cushion. Just might come into play a little bit later.
I think the only thing with Scott's visit to the table, that red that he actually played to top right, he'd love that to have stayed more in the open, in that top area. But other than that, he'd be happy with the leave here.
Jake's not biting. Do you try and move that red a little bit if you're Scott? Are you tempted?
Did you say the yellow is frozen to that top cushion?
Believe so.
Yeah, so I was thinking about putting that, trying to put that red on top of that yellow, as in just to sort of almost edge it in front and really make that area awkward. But that's risky. Get the double kiss and don't hit a cushion. Cue ball hit the cushion, so he's fine. That red's now a great breakout ball for Scott.
Reds are now definitely in front in this frame.
I think he would have preferred to not get the double kiss on the yellow, so the red is blocking the yellow to top left. Because remember, Jake's only got one bad ball on here as well. Just not an easy ball for him to solve unless he can screw straight back into it here, but that's really tough. Well, he's not going to be able to from the cushion anyway. I find it's very difficult to do from this one to top left.
Is he just going to try and arc this?
I think you slide off it. I don't think you can generate the pace. You can't just bump the yellow over either, because Scott just walked to the table, play a loss of turn, and put you in a world of trouble.
Big shot.
Yeah, didn't fall into the trap of floating that over the pocket. Purposely made sure that didn't happen.
Scott does have options.
If Scott plays down the table, for me, he's just got to make sure and double check that's not a full ball plant to the top left. I don't think it is. I think it's clipping the yellow just a shade thin. It's close, though, when you look at the overhead there.
Yeah, it looks on. Do you think it looks a shade on the thin side?
Two, half an hour to go. This is a big tactical exchange.
Yeah, it is. For those of you wondering, the race will increase for the final. Our race is to 8 still for the semis. Then a race to 10 for the big dance. Is Scott Gillespie deciding enough is enough? I wonder.
He'd love to be able to play a loss of turn here. Can't quite get to that area of the yellow to knock it into that top left. And if he could, he's come too far up the table to do that. More balls he pots, though, harder it's going to get. He didn't want that in.
No, he wasn't playing to pot that, I'm almost certain.
I think he was just trying to nudge the 8-ball down the cushion a little bit, make the 8-ball a bad ball. Amazing. Got 2 balls and he's in a worse position now than he was at the start of the visit.
If it is a plant to the top of the table, you tempted to play it as reds as a lost turn. I think I just got my answer. Well, that's a result. Oh, I think Jake can just clip off this yellow. He's not snookered. If he hasn't reached through to the bottom, I think he does, then he'd have been in a great position. All of a sudden, that yellow's a problem again.
And the red less so.
Yeah, reds go.
It's hard for Jake not to leave a shot on here. Hard to not leave something for Scott to go at.
He's tried to do just that, but he's not got the cover. Scott could go thin cut, but it looks very thin. He could also play down to the bottom left off either of those 2 reds. He's got options here.
He looks like he likes this thin cut. I can only assume the thin cut gets the cue ball into the yellow. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it would just miss it. And I think now that Scott went to get down on the shot, I think he realised that.
Oh, well. Well. He's just a little bit rushed there. That's the only thing, and we've talked about the improvement in Scott over the last sort of year or so, as he's regained that confidence and sort of returned back towards his best. It's those shots on the buzzer where he's changed his mind last minute. Never fancied him for that one.
No, and he couldn't have left it any worse. Left the perfect angle for Jake Dillon, who loved to play his breakout. Jake's patience has paid off. Scott was trying to be the aggressor during that tactical exchange, and Jake was just trying to stay in it, just being patient, trying not to make it easy, and he's been rewarded.
Big frame to win for Jake Dillon Newlove. There's a long way to go in this game, but that feels like a big frame to win. And a super run to this stage. Knocked out Mick Hill in round 1, 8-7. Awesome performance. Back that up with an 8-0 battering of the Bishop. And then round 3, Brian Cumming fell by the wayside, and Carl Morris dispatched John the Ringer Rowe.
3 world titles.
Yeah.
Gone in that. 3 world champions, I should say.
Leading 3 frames to 2.
That match with Carl Morris was incredible. Amazing last-minute turnaround from Jake to steal that one away from Carl.
Oh, that feels like a tough one.
It really does. Okay, it's not massive in terms of he's dry anyway, but you're kind of scratching your head thinking, how's it dry? But cue ball in hand just means that Scott can go about these with a cue ball anywhere in that break area. You'd feel, unless he landed in a very unfortunate area of the table, he was going to have an opportunity, even if he had to go for yellows rather than reds. This is a good layout. And a good way to forget about that previous frame.
Yeah, you win this. It's a simple frame to win if you're Scott Gillespie. This lovely layout, cue ball in hand to start. You can pick your route. It's a good frame good frame for him to return to.
And on Jake's break as well, considering that tactical exchange was on his break.
Yeah, and that frame felt so big, but all of a sudden it's inconsequential if Goobsy rattles off a quick response.
Yeah, it's a massive frame if Jake wins this one on the back of it and then starts to build a lead and even if he just maintains a lead from there and trades frames.
Yeah.
But now that Scott has this chance, if Scott gets it back to 3-3 and has the break, we're just as you were. Second half of the match now.
Long way from home. On the scoreboard, at least.
I feel like this is the only shot that could really go wrong. If he just lands, and I'm probably going to try and almost land in between all three of those reds in a triangle. I think he can pinch the pocket enough just to screw to that area. They're just going to come straight back, and it's a bit awkward. I say that was the shot that could go wrong. He's not too bad because he's on this to the bottom right corner.
Yeah, I think he's played on that.
Oh, he has, yeah. He didn't try and get any further down the table.
Yeah, I think he's in an okay position, you know.
I think he would have preferred to come straighter on it so that he could play on the one in the triangle area before the one to left centre. That's why I'm saying it's slightly awkward.
A few ways around it, one of which is taking that red to the right middle, and your pattern is essentially the same. Nice shot. Putting a pace into the cue ball to send it around the yellow, through it wide. Lovely visit to the table, clinical. Back in the hunt. 3 each. 23 minutes to play.
Very good that. Very good chance, but didn't allow it to develop and become awkward. Good finish. Now it's back to his break, back on serve. Don't know how much external pressure Scott has felt over the first couple of years because of what he achieved prior to the pandemic, or whether it's just an internal pressure that he put on himself as one of the world's best players. But I think it would be, well, it could change his ultimate pool career if he was to get the win here. It could be a different animal for the rest of the season and beyond.
Yeah. Winning inspires a confidence like no other. What a break. A couple of reds and yellows have just said hello to each other, shook hands at the end of that one, which just caused a little bit of a face pull from Scott. You can't have it perfect all the time. Got to have some work to do. Maybe he's just grimacing at the cue ball. If that was the case, I'll let him off. It's
Well,
a little bit smelly.
If the red nearest the right side in the bottom half of the table passes the yellow to the corner, actually all the reds go. If he can't see the one at the top of the table, then he may have to take it. A couple of ifs there, of course. It's not ideal. Just about squeezing by the yellow means he's got options. Obviously very big pocket to the bottom left. He's got the one to the top right. But the positional side of that's slightly awkward. Still maybe able to play the one to the bottom right past the yellow, but we don't know about that one yet.
Lovely shot.
And that opens up another pocket for the red above the yellow, nearest the triangle area. That now goes bottom left, whereas before it was only right centre. Comes back to check the one I've been talking about all the way through this frame. The fact he's not looked to do anything with it, to me, suggests it goes. Last 2 shots, not great. Assuming that red does go. He wanted that to be his second last shot, followed by the one to the bottom left as his last shot, which meant he wanted to get straight in on the red to the top right there, or close to. He's now going to leave it as last ball.
I don't mind this. I think we talked about this before when we were on the Champions League with Goobsy, and he has finishes like this where it's maybe not sort of pool purist perfect patterns. Do you know what I mean? But actually, it's efficient, it's effective. It suits it. It's his style of play.
Yeah,
He doesn't necessarily mind leaving those last few shots because they're all punchy mid-range shots, which is what he backs himself to make.
and there's some clever stuff in there as well. I mean,
Oh, of course.
that lovely nudge on the 8 ball there was just making it easier to get on the 8 ball into the centre rather than the corner. I mean, it wouldn't have been a problem. We had to go corner, but just subtle. And he just looks so good. It looks like it doesn't matter what the pattern is. He looks just like he's going to take it out.
Yeah. The one thing I would say, is similar to what we said earlier with one of the semi-finals, is if this runs deep and you get into the 15-second shot clock part of the match, does the match change? Who thrives in that scenario?
Well, you would say that Jake hasn't had the experience of it as other players, and as Scott has, but Jake's experience of it against Carl Morris was exceptional. He was brilliant chasing a game from behind in the 15 seconds a shot. He was exceptional, and he managed to turn it around.
And Carl's actually amazing in that section of the match as well. Ball 3 down, just under 20 minutes to go. Big break from the Butcher. That's not a cue, it's a cleaver.
Not a good leave, though. Look at these. That is horrible. It's worse than what Scott had previously. Scott's looked awkward, but
that yellow
had
red
roots.
8-ball combination at the bottom left is rank.
Yeah. It is.
Don't think any of them go independently.
No, but it is. But it's fine in terms of it's one breakout shot. I'm assuming the red in the middle of the table does pass the yellow. If not, it's got to go probably top right. But he's going to leave himself an angle now to bottom right to fly into the bad area. I mean, it looks like he's eyeing up the one to left centre to do the same. The reason you'd like to go into it from the centre rather than the bottom corner, because you're pushing the red towards the pocket. But you may not land on anything there. Whereas if you come into it this way with a little bit more pace, you've got more chance, I think.
Big shot. That'll do.
He went for precision rather than power. He hit that a little bit softer than I thought, simply because there was no guaranteed ball to be on. I thought he might play it a little bit firmer. But it's come out okay. You saw the grimace, but this red does go.
Yeah, he's fine to check this back. And he's got reds up at the top half of the table. Oh, targeted the yellow. That's clever. Good shot. That's lovely. Nip and tuck so far. Can only assume that red does pass the yellow. Because if that was an attempt to break it out, it failed.
I'm sure it passes. He had a quick look at it earlier on. Yeah, there you go. Comfortably passes.
Lovely visit to the table, this. Very, very good indeed. Tricky layout when he came to the table. Executed to perfection.
And he's done his break, 3 out of 4 frames.
If you can do that, if you can control your controllables, you'll generally go pretty well.
It's been 6 off the break in the 8 frames we've seen, 3 apiece.
Some standard. 1 tactical frame. And then was it a Jake mistake, the other one, if memory serves?
It was a couple. But hard, you know, nothing
No, in
major.
fact, it was Scott playing a safety, wasn't it? It was won the frame at 2 visits.
2 visits, yeah.
Yeah.
4 frames up.
Yeah, hit the gap with the yellows. Remember it now. All right, 17 minutes. Locked at 4. Boom.
Thought for a second the cue ball was going to get a nasty kick, but it's all turned out nice. Just keep a look at this cue ball. Right there, you're thinking, oh dear,
Yeah.
it's okay. Does he have an opener on reds? He has a couple of options. Little clip back. Right centre looks your best option. Could go long, but hampered queuing, I'm not sure that's the one. All the reds are good here.
Yeah, you fancy him for these.
Sort of layout where Jake's already mentally preparing himself for the fact he's going 1 behind again and it's his break. Obviously, he'll be ready if Scott was to make an error, but he's certainly not going to expect it the way these are laid out. Two reds together, just above the break line, are okay. Don't think they pass independently of each other, but there's plenty of room to play on the left-hand one. And that opens up the right-hand one to either pocket.
When he can play at his own pace, Scott, never ever think he's going to miss. Just steady, controlled, solid.
I also think there's something in being the player that keeps edging in front in these situations.
Yeah, this is nice. Going back in front. I do think that a big question will be asked in about 4.5 minutes' time. Goobsy leads again.
He's now done his break 3 times out of 5. Reverse clearance in there as well. Really high level this match.
Yeah, it's been excellent. We haven't really suffered for the lack of what you'd call the big names, in inverted commas.
The top seeds,
Yeah.
the form players, if you like, yeah.
None of the top 16 into the final 8 of this competition. And we've not missed them sounds harsh, but in terms of the level and what we've seen on the table, it's been as good as it usually ever is.
Yeah, and drama as well. Plenty of it this afternoon in the quarters. Right, 1 behind again. Jake to respond.
Eight ball! Golden break. call him Salt Bay, because he's putting gold leaf on his steaks, the butcher.
I like the reaction as well. Just calmly went and sat down. Knows there's plenty to come yet. Knows that's a big moment in the match. Knows that's a response, but also knows can't get carried away there. More to come.
Looks a little bit away with the fairies, doesn't he?
Sliding 3.
5-all.
It's strange to say it, but that one will hurt Scott a little bit more than a break clearance. Just simply because he's thinking, oh, just done a good job, hard work, got myself back in front, and it's taken away in one shot.
I was going to say, but I didn't want to curse anything, that the odds of Scott breaking dry here felt very short.
Yeah, it did feel like that, actually. It felt like that was going to happen. And he hit it okay. Maybe not as good as some, certainly not with the control of the white, but enough to make a ball.
Red to the call.
And all there as well. Not a huge amount of transition from top to bottom either. Big this. Jake can get himself in front with the break as we tick into 15 seconds a shot. Feels very big, especially on the back of what Scott's thrown him in the match so far.
Still not really done much wrong with Scott Gillespie. Neither has Jake Dillon Newlove. This has been a high standard. In matches like this, it generally just comes down to the amount of opportunity. Can you get your opportunity to win?
Does he have too much angle here?
Well, it looks like it at first glance, doesn't it?
Yeah, his reaction tells me as well, just watching him. He wants to just be able to drop this in and be straight in on the red to the left, bottom left corner. I think he runs the risk of going behind the yellow. And if that happens, then he's going to have to play a shot here. He's going to have to play a positional shot.
Yeah, far from ideal. Lining it up, checking it twice. Always played the double for that very reason. What a big shot. What a big shot to pull out there. How about that?
It was the calmness of it, wasn't it? This is the casually, I've left a bad angle.
So casual.
I'll just double it in. Brilliant.
Oh, what a finish to that one. That'll hurt a little bit, I'd imagine. Ruthless finish. Was way too thin on that red. Instead of trying to get creative and get his protractors out, he just rolls in. An elegant double, really.
Yeah, it's obviously a very easy pot, but the cue ball is going into the cushion, into the yellow, into problems, into traffic. The double keeps it clean.
And it's perfect cue ball as well. Absolutely perfect. Cue ball in hand, perfect. And now Jake Dillon Newlove with the lead. 90 seconds away from the 15-second shot clock with the break. He can put himself on the hill here. Crunch. Dry.
Yeah, the wry smile as he walks back to his chair because he knows how big this break is. Didn't hit it terrible at all. Maybe not as good as some, but wasn't bad. The split is brilliant, and the chance for Scott Gillespie to tie this up once again and get it back on serve is there. And then it's the question mark of the 15 seconds, as you've already talked about.
Yeah, it's a big question mark for me, who survives it.
Also, the transition of to the 15 seconds is going to happen here for Scott, and that is awkward at times.
He has talked about that, yeah. It's not a moment he particularly loves. You can see here he does all this figuring out at the start of the visit. He's right there in that 30, 45 seconds. He just plotted the entire 7 or 8 balls. You got to think quick in this game.
I think in an ideal world, I don't know whether it was in his mind or not, but to pull back a bit more, be straight in on the one to top right might have been quite nice. Just the reason I mentioned that, just don't allow the 2 yellows in the middle of the table to become blockers, whether that's to a red, whether that's to an 8 ball. If that one wasn't on the table, this chance would feel even better. I mean, it's still wide open. I'm looking for a problem here.
15-second shot clock in.
Those beeps will arrive pronto.
Gets rid of that one now in a nice way where those yellows can't come into play. And he's working hard to leave red left centre as his last ball and red left centre straight in as his last ball to get nice on the 8 ball.
He's pretty good at that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's worked these out really nicely. The difference in that shot clock, it's so stark, isn't it?
It really is. But he's dealt with that transition well.
Super visit. Scott Gillespie ties things back up. Did I detect a little clench of the fist there?
He knows how big that is. To go back all square, back on serve rather than 2 behind at that moment is huge.
6-6.
One of the things you have with Scott Gillespie, certainly pre-pandemic, is, and the belief he had and the level he was playing at, but also the bottle he was playing with. He would take his bottle, his pressure game against anybody in the world. I mean, he'd take his game against anybody in the world, but that hasn't been there for the first 2 years with Ultimate Pool. When he's been under the pump, he's been fragile. That doesn't feel like it's been there this season. It feels like he's back to how he was 2019.
Best of 3 for a spot in the final. What a break.
Almost detected a little bit off that to guarantee that cue ball stay in shape a little bit more after the last dry one.
Yeah, I think he's slightly overcorrected as well. Cue ball veering away to the left as we look at it.
First shot here. He's got to go yellows. So got one to top right. So yellow on the right-hand side, yellow on the left-hand side. The connections between those 2, not ideal.
Yeah, it's a tricky little layout, this. He's got to be thinking really quick out there. You can see he's rushed.
So comes down for the left-hand side one now.
Has he got an angle just to stun across? That'd be handy if so.
I think he wanted to have the angle to top past the red. He wants to just beat the red here, get on the one at the bottom. Yeah, and now, I mean, he could play the cannon if he wanted to, but I think his plan was to stun up and almost put the cue ball between those 2 yellows on the right-hand side. Or hit the gap on the one to top left and then get the cue ball in between those 2 yellows as straight as you can.
Well, he's got up to the top left. It's a great shot.
If he lands straight on his next ball, he'll feel like it's frame over.
Yeah, that'll do. Tell you what a visit to the table.
It's just, he's not straight. If he pulls this back, he's going towards the red. If he was an extra bounce, an extra half a turn off the cushion, he'd get really close to his next yellow, but he's not going to be able to here. He has to leave distance, which makes this next yellow missable. The difference of half a roll on that previous shot was quite big.
He's already just checking out the line for the 8-ball. He's not anticipating missing this. Big shot. Bang. Oh, this has been an impressive visit. Really impressive visit. That is Scott Gillespie at his best. At his very best. Focused, bottle, clinical.
I can't really describe how different it feels to last year. Scott, in that moment, in that visit, it never looked in doubt. It looked secure, whereas a year ago it didn't. It was so good. There's another clearance off the break.
Yeah, the last 2 visits to the table on the 15-second shot clock. I've mentioned Scott has had issues with it. He talks about it quite openly. It's not a secret. He doesn't love it. He's a more methodical player. He prefers to have his time. But the fact that he's dusted off those 2 finishes back-to-back shows that he is playing with an awful lot of confidence and a lot of self-belief.
This has swung one way then the other, isn't it? It's been incredible.
Jake Dillon Newlove is now backs against the wall. He must make a ball here. Scott Gillespie on the hill. 6 minutes and change to play. What a break.
Cue ball, cue ball.
What a break. He has cleaned these.
That's his best break of the match.
That's probably break of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, they exploded.
First shot's tricky if he wants yellows, which he will. Not just the pot, but the cue ball. Gets both. Ideally. Very nice indeed. Maybe one more turn up the table, and he deals with a 2 right at the top first.
Big shot this. Hampered. Could turn it down. Don't think he will.
It's hampered here.
Oh, he will.
And that ball he's just potted was his connection to this one on the right-hand side, and the fact that he's left himself hampered is just adding mileage to this finish.
He's going to have to play a good shot to land on that one, and then he's got to pot it well. Could leave it till last. Not a terrible connection for the 8-ball.
I actually thought he was going to leave the 2 yellows on the left hand, on the right-hand side as his last 2. Can see why he wanted to do it straight away, but the fact that he's walked away from that pot because it's hampered queuing is putting a lot of pressure on his cue ball. Putting a lot of pressure on his cue ball.
It just never looked right to me. And he's got to pull out a shot here. Jaws it. And that might be Jake Dillon Newlove's last shot in the Ultimate Pool Masters Championship.
Is that the first bad mistake in anger in the whole match? I mean, half a mistakes before that, if any. Yeah, feel for you, Jake. You played your part in a huge match here. You have to sit and suffer. Scott Gillespie has the opportunity to wrap this up.
Well, this is a semi-final at the top level. That's ultimately what it is. Jake Dillon Newlove has been brilliant. He has barely flinched. And yet, it may not be enough. One error on the 15-second shot clock. I mean, and the error really was, it wasn't that shot trying to connect it. It was not taking it earlier. The reason why he didn't take it earlier, you're talking half a ball's difference. Those are the margins.
I still think he probably should have taken it there.
I agree. And I think if it was 30 seconds, I think he probably does.
It was a tough shot, though.
Oh, goodness me, yeah.
I understand why he turned it down in that moment, but it was just hard to see him getting better on it. Never been more than one frame in it in this whole match. Scott Gillespie right now has the chance to go 2 clear and win it at the right time.
Looks laser focused, doesn't he? This 8-ball for a spot in the Ultimate Pool Masters final. Never in doubt. Scott Gillespie is back, and he is back in the big time. He will compete for Ultimate Pool Silverware for the second time